All right, so if you are joining me for the first time, this is a lightsaber class. We're gonna go about 30 minutes, and so till about 11:10. And I'm gonna take us through some warm-ups, I'm gonna take us through some stuff, and we'll get a good workout. All right, so one of the things we start with every time, you take your non-dominant hand, it goes on the very bottom of the handle, and we wanna go from parallel to the floor, up above the head. As my hand comes up, my shoulder blade is gonna slide down my spine. And then I'm gonna very slowly draw a straight line. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wanna use something vertical so then I can track if my edge is moving, if I'm like wobbling as I cut, I wanna get a good straight line. This one's 6. Good. And if my shoulder comes up like this, I'm doing it wrong. I want to keep that down. Nice, smooth, straight lines. All right? And so this is shoulder blade down. I don't want it to come up as the hand comes up. These muscles aren't involved in lifting my hand. Shoulder blade goes down, hand comes up. All right, and then we switch. We're going to do the other hand now. So we take the dominant hand that goes on the top of the handle. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I'm trying to get to parallel to the floor. All right? Now, is there a competition? KB. So the finger is so that you can tell what I'm doing with my wrist. And so you don't actually have to point the finger. This is something I do when I'm teaching so that when you're visually looking, you can tell what my hands, like how my hands turn. Because if I have that in, then some of these little twists, especially when I'm way back here, it's harder to tell what I'm doing. If I've got the fingers out, it makes it easier. Quinn, I am not sure what you mean by is there a competition? And so, if you can clarify for me, like my instinct is to say no. Oh, there is competitive lightsaber. There are a couple of different dueling groups out there. The European one, the biggest one, is called Ludo Sport, and it's built mostly like I want to say French and Italian. But there are a couple of different dueling organizations in the States. Plus there are a bunch of like LARPs and things that incorporate it. All right. Forward and back. And so for the forward and back, what we're gonna do is the front foot does our pull step. So the front leg reaches out, you pull the back leg in, and then we do the backwards pull steps, and then our back leg is gonna step, pull the front leg in. As we're doing that, we're gonna do overhead cuts. We want to do about 10 of these. If you lose track, doing extras isn't going to hurt you. Good. Paul, I love hearing that. Thank you. All right. And now we do the pivot. We're going to do the direction shift. So what's going to happen is you go forward, lift as you turn, forward, lift as you turn, forward. Okay? So we're going to do about 10 of these. Again, if you lose track, if you lose count, just start counting from wherever you lost or make a best guess. Like if you end up doing 2 or 3 extra, it's not a bad thing. I got this far, I haven't counted yet, so I have no idea what number I'm on. I'm just gonna call that 1. Down. If you are prone to getting lightheaded or dizzy, and so especially people that have different types of conditions that are going to make you prone to it, and whether that's stuff that's like, you know, things you were born with or things that you have grown into, that quick change of direction where all of a sudden the room kind of blurs, that can contribute to feelings of lightheadedness or dizziness. And so the AI summaries are occasionally correct and are other times really goofy. All right. But so that rotating your head, that can contribute to like problems with your equilibrium. So if that's something you're prone to, don't try to do these fast. You don't need to snap your body around, okay? You can execute your first one. Have this turn be a little bit more deliberate. Like I'll lead with my head so then I don't have as much blurring. And then I turn so that my body catches up to my eyes. And so then I will pre-turn my head and make sure it's completely still before I move my body. And that can help with some of that, the woodgy feeling. But especially if you are prone to having your equilibrium messed up badly enough that you'll fall or that you lose your ability to be stable, instead of doing that turning drill, just do some more forward and back. Okay? Like we don't want to exercise in a way that risks injury, because then we can't exercise after that. The goal of practice is that you get a little bit better than you were the day before, and it's something that you do consistently over a long period of time in order to make changes and get results. So the more effective you are at being consistent, the better you are going to get by being consistent. If you train in a way that risks your safety or causes injury or contributes to injury or anything like that, then you lose your ability to be consistent over time. It wasn't worth it. It's never going to be worth the trade-off. All right, now you got the swing step. And so for this one, remember you're going to do step, swing, step, swing. All right, and so our footwork is that really simple. We're going to move body here just a little bit further. Not in the way. So here's the feet. Okay? It don't mean a thing. Ain't got that swing. Make sure you're breathing. And we do about 10 of those. I've been super bad about counting today, so that's where we're at. Anybody, if you have questions, go ahead and toss them in. I'm just taking us through our workout. Okay. We did forward and back, we did turning, we did swing. All right, we're gonna do the 4 and 5 strike. How much do clothes cost on Tatooine? I don't know. How much do clothes cost on Tatooine? Improv, good to see you, buddy. All right, so we start high, and we're going to drop down and across. 1. So we step through, hit, okay? All right, now we're gonna whack something when we do it. All right. Oh, we got the color change. I changed fonts by accident. All right, so we're gonna lift, and then we're dropping that horizontal stripe. Lift, 2. Now, what you want to do with your footwork is, if you imagine, almost like lanes in the road. And so we start, I'm in the same lane as Bob. I'm going to step to get myself into this parallel lane, okay? It's almost like the car chase scenes where like the one car will be going straight at another one, and then it just kind of like over at the last second. Same idea, but we're gonna add some violence. Oh, green now. So one of the things about motion control, if you do not adjust the sensitivity, sometimes when you have the sound off, then you will accidentally change sound fonts with gestures as you're practicing. And then each sound font stores a blade color. And so 2 blade colors ago, we had red, then white, then green. It's not spontaneously changing color on me without taking direction. It is shifting to a different sound font, which has a different blade color loaded in. So I start in the same lane as Bob. I'm gonna lift high at first, because from here, there's a lot of strikes that I could deliver, okay? I'm gonna step, so I take the left foot, it's gonna swing through, and I'm trying to plant so that I can continue going that way, all right? Dylan, really good to see you, buddy. Now we're going to do the same thing going to the other side. And so as I go to this lane, my hands are going to cross over. I'm going to move Bob really quickly so that you can kind of see the transition. Everybody that's following along, everybody that's doing class with us, thank you very much. Love having you guys here. So I start kind of squared up. If you think about your shoulder width as being like the lane that you occupy, I'm in the same lane as them. I'm gonna lift, and the way that I want to step is gonna take me to the offside. So my hands go like this, and that is our 4 strike. And we started with the 5 strike. Kathleen, good to see ya. So for right now, it's easier to start left leg forward. You're going to take your right leg through. Let the hands fold over as you strike, okay? Everybody remember Pod One's podcast and Kathleen, the recently rebranded, Kathleen, what's the name of the podcast now? I forgot. It's not fun, it's something. I forgot, I'm sorry, type it in. But if you are not following Kathleen, Pop Culture Addicts, there it is. If you are not following Kathleen and the Pop Culture Addicts, and you are not following Pod Ones and the Pod Ones podcast, you should do that. Blanton, good to see you, man. Blanton and I have known each other since the late 1900s. So I start from my lift. I'm going to step through. Okay. That's what happens when you hold the finger on the button while you're swinging. All right. So lift. Oop, really back. Step through. Okay. Oh, my battery's dying. That's the problem. Okay. You should have juice. All right, so right leg back, I lift up. I'm gonna step through. And that's our strike. MZ, right now, life, the universe, and everything is kind of interesting because of what's happening in Iran. And so I don't have a whole lot of updates yet because containers are moving very, very slowly. And there's lots of competition for container space and other things. So there's a right now I am waiting for some answers on that as well. We've got a lot of people in class today. Welcome everybody if you are new. Lift, step through, whack. And so you sort of, the footwork becomes step through, pull, tuck. Yeah, MZ, I wish I had a better answer for you than that, unfortunately, but that's just sort of where we are. Step through, hit. All right. So we've gone through a bunch of our warm-up. We're gonna add something today. For anybody that needs a something to practice on, and so like all the equipment that I have is from a martial arts supply company called Century. They supply to even like Dick's Sporting Goods. You can get a bunch of their stuff there. Tank, I love hearing that. Thank you. But having something you can whack is really helpful. I will recommend, if you're going to start doing a lot of practice where you're hitting things, is to get some gloves, like some weight gloves or bicycle gloves work really well as well. But you'll start to find that you're going to develop like calluses and things like that. So if you want to minimize that, gloves are going to help. Just because of the nature of all that rebound when you're making contact. But you don't have to have. I use Bob because he makes a good noise. Like you get a really satisfying thwack. But in class, a lot of times we use these because you can hit them a little harder and they're taller, so there's more stuff that you can do. We're gonna actually work with these guys here in just a little bit for the next part. But yeah, so all the Century martial arts equipment we have for impacts, we have had really, really positive experiences with. So that is not to say that other equipment isn't effective or suitable or whatever, because it might very well be. But I can definitely vouch for Century. KB, there's a whole lot of details I would need to understand to give you a direct answer to that. So let's DM me and we can figure it out. All right. Now, you can do this without having something to hit. It's just more fun to hit something. We're gonna do some 2-strike combinations. And so the first one is we're gonna come around high and you want it to be a little bit parallel, almost like, so I'm just gonna snap my hand around to deliver that strike. As I do, it's gonna rebound off of where I impact and I'm gonna snap it back the other way really quickly. And so as my hands are up here, I'm gonna snap, snap, okay? And so a bunch of these drills that we're about to do are out of Philippine martial arts. Typically they're called Sinawalis. This one often gets called abanico, and you would do it one-handed, but with a blade this long, it helps to do two, and it's gonna help you work on some of your wrist flexibility and stuff. So I'm gonna come around, dominant side first, and then it snaps back. Okay, so we'll go from the top. Make sense? So you can watch my hands. This is what it's going to look like. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And you can do those live, or you can do those hitting something. But that's the movement. Bop, bop. It's like a half a helicopter. Everybody that's just joining in, thank you very much for joining class today. The next one we're going to do is a high-low. And so all of these are to make you kind of work on your wrist rotation. It can be a longsword move. I'm doing it out of Screama. And it's bop, bop. So you rapidly attack one side of the head and then the other. And we just practiced it forehand, crosshand, but you can do it the other way. But that's the abanico. But just about like everything you see in every blade system, you see in other blade systems. Because a lot of times, something that works with an edged weapon works because it's an edged weapon, not necessarily because of the shape of the edged weapon, but because it has an edge. So whether it's a double edge or a single edge or whatever, there are a lot of things in blade systems are just like, oh, this is a lot like that, and it's because everything's just circles, lines, and triangles. It's all like every martial art you're ever going to study, circles, lines, and triangles. That's just what it is. That was bad. Let's try that again. All right. Now, we did forehand, crosshand. We're going to do crosshand, forehand. And so now we'll start from the up, cross, forehand, right? Bop, bop. Now, if we were using an edged weapon, if you look at where my fingers are, and so KB asked about my fingers earlier. Generally speaking, fingers designate what direction the edge is pointed, and that's part of the reason why I'll do that in class. With a lightsaber, I don't have to worry about it, and in some Philippine martial arts drills, they don't worry about it because they're thinking about a stick instead of an edge. But so, if I have to worry about edge alignment, you can see what I'm doing with my wrist. But if I don't have to worry about that, I can hit differently and deliver solid impact all the same. So like right now, I technically have my edge aligned upwards, but I'm still going to be able to whack the bag just fine. With a lightsaber, I don't have to worry about edge alignment. Right? And so we'll start with the crosshand side first, and then go to the forehand side. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we got enough time, we'll do the high-low. Now, especially if you want to do dual lightsaber, having a shorter blade is going to be really important to the happiness of your existence. If I try to use two, like 3-foot blades, it's going to be really hard for me to accomplish anything because they just aren't going to change as dynamically, and the blade is going to stay in my way more. And so if my intention is to do a double saber, then I really want to be somewhere in like the 28-inch length zone, for my blade length, somewhere in there, maybe a 30 if I'm pretty tall. But it's the really, really long blades. As I'm trying to make them change direction, they change very slowly because my hand is so much farther away from the balance point, right? The longer the blade is, the more the balance point's in front of my hand. And I want the balance point to be in front of my hand, but if I'm too far away from it, I can't make the whole system change direction. And like, if you are under 6 feet tall, operating with a 36-inch blade, you have to modify a ton of stuff so that you're not just whacking the ground all the time. All right, high-low. And so what this one's gonna look like, and we're gonna use that same footwork we were using here. And so if I start in the lane with the bag, I'm a little bit off center, it's round, so it helps. I think about this angle, but then I'm gonna step through down here. And you can think about it like you're coming towards their knee. You could also think about it like you're coming in, like kind of rib height, or into the body. Different weapon arts incorporate leg striking differently. Most of the time, weapon systems don't do a lot of leg striking because in order to reach the person's leg, I have to kind of give the other person my head. And so most of the time in most weapon systems, it's gonna be bad to do a strike low where you reach low, because then you're kind of giving somebody an even more favorable target. But just about everything has some amount of leg striking because there's certain times where it fits. Anything that leg striking is a really important part of the meta, it usually tells you that head striking is illegal. And so in a lot of the different, like the LARP setups, where leg striking is a really important way of dealing with like your shield walls and other things like that, that is a function of the fact that you're not allowed to hit the person's head. And if they've got a shield, like the head's the only thing you can see, and so then the legs are the only other alternative. And so then it becomes a really important thing for you to be able to do. Hand striking is typically a really important part of the meta of any weapon art. And so if you are studying in a weapon system that doesn't incorporate hand striking in any kind of way, then you know that that is a result of it's not legal within the meta. So you don't, like when you're training, you don't put stuff in your toolbox that you can't use. And so that's something that you want to pay attention to as you are, whether you're doing a lightsaber or some other discipline. And the different lightsaber competition areas, they have really, really different rules, and the rules define the meta. So like there are a lot of lightsaber dueling guilds where your dominant hand goes on the very bottom of the weapon because the blade, its length is dictated by the rules, and the handle, its length is dictated by the rules, and most of the time the blade pocket as well. And so the way that you maximize your reach as a combatant is by having your dominant side and probably your lead side on the very, very bottom of the weapon, holding it securely so that you can get your touches in order to score a point. And so like you see different things pop up as like, oh man, that person fights really weird. Well, that person probably fights in a way that makes a lot of sense for the context where they're practicing. Most of what I am teaching you guys is pulled out of Japanese blade systems, Philippine blade systems, a little bit of Chinese stuff, and they are all gonna have really different meta. All right, so the high-low. To start, I'm going to take a little step like I'm going to the swing step. Take a little step, almost like I'm taking a jab step to hit, and then instead of swinging, I'm going to really quickly change direction. Go the swing step in the opposite direction and strike low, okay? And so without footwork, this is high, low, and it's a high forehand to a low crosshand. Okay. So without footwork, high forehand, low crosshand. With footwork, I'm going to start from the high guard for now. I take a jab step forward with whichever hand is on top. That's the foot that jab steps. That's our high strike. And then the other foot is immediately then I'm going to change my angle, swing step to do the low strike. And so step in high, step, swing around. Okay. Does that make sense? All right, we've got a couple of minutes. Everything it's all symmetrical. And so we just did, I'm going to show this with the stick instead of the Saber because it's easier to fit in frame. All right, so we just did high, low. All right, I can do it in the other direction. So I can do the high cross into the low forehand. Okay, almost like swinging a golf club. All right, and so I can go 1, 2, up, up. Okay. Now,
volume high.
since we talked about it, if you're thinking about dual wielding, so you got to put a little body English on it. So I need to sell out, make it look like I'm trying to do this. And then I'm just going to switch that direction. The left foot's going to end up being your dig foot, right? So I go in high, and then I'm going to, so the right foot goes in high, left foot's going to come around. It's the way a sailboat's got to sail. If the wind is coming towards a sailboat, it can't sail straight in. It's got to kind of zigzag. And so you go one way and then the other way. It's sort of like if you start with the swing step, but instead of step, swing, you're going to step, skip this swing, and go directly to the other side. So you're going to rapid switch the angle. All right. Now, if you want to do a wheel, so you take the things that we just did, and you're going to right, left, flip them, and do each of them one-handed. And so the high-low is high, low, and now I'm going to do the other hand, high, low. Or if you want to get a little bit more cardio in your practice, you do high. I was saying high-low just a second ago, and I completely misspoke. So I'm going to go forehand, and then I switch my feet crosshand. And then when I switch to the other side, instead of no footwork forehand, I'm going to do the footwork. I start crosshand and forehand. And what this is going to do is one side is always going to practice forehand first. The other side is going to practice crosshand first. Okay. Then I would switch so that the other hand gets a turn to start. So I can do it that way, or you just add a little stutter in the middle. You can also use the neutral position when both feet are forward. Right? So I take the right foot, here's my swing step. And so that was the first step, and now I add the swing, and then I add neutral. And so the forehand will always take place on the swing, Crosshand will always take place on the neutral. Forehand takes place on the swing. Crosshand on the neutral. And so you can do both of those things where you're either getting more strikes in the same footwork, or you have the footwork take a little bit longer, and then you're changing the wrist a little bit differently. Does anybody have questions about what we covered today? All right, thank you everybody for joining into Lightsaber class. If you are still here, I'm about to sign us off. I appreciate everybody that stayed. Every Friday, 10:30 to 11, we go a half hour. If I start a little late, then we run a little long. Like today, I got us logged in pretty close to the right time, but I could not locate the Advil, and it's going to be an ibuprofen kind of day. So I didn't get us going until 10:39 or something like that. So then we went a little bit long. You're welcome to bring a lightsaber. You can use anything else though. You can use a stick, you can use an umbrella. If it's something that cannot survive impact, then you don't want to hit stuff with it. So when we're doing drills where we're hitting things, just do them in the air. And that's it. That's everything. Thanks very much, everybody.